find a comfortable position and make whatever adjustments feel good to your body. Maybe hold your beloved's hand or thigh, but really see what's the perfect distance from each other's bodies to feel optimal relaxation. And also attunement. Take a moment to really feel bond between you. See if you can harmonize breath, just gently, finding the rhythm. And let yourself drop even deeper, dropping in, softening, gathering into the heart, feeling your lungs, your ribs, your chest expand. Each breath helping you access the highest frequency of love that's authentic in this moment. So feel love here and now. And let yourself be inside. What is the direct experience of love? In the body, notice the sensations. Around the body and through the body, get the sense of this quality or this frequency just permeating the entire field. And let yourself locate the ground of your being as love. Let yourself land inside. And from the inside of the inside, feel the frequency that is your beloved at the level of soul. Take a few breaths to notice the inseparability that this frequency has with your own. And feel too the other beloveds that have truly touched your in the inside of your experience of love. Perhaps it's everyone you've ever loved, everyone you love now. But certainly feel the circle, the collective group heart that we are as we gather together. And let yourself be held in that for the next few breaths. And as the group heart opens, so does access to our highest guidance, allies, ancestors. Take a moment to call in your allies. And as we focus today on our vows, be open to listening to hearing, to being inspired by the truth of how your love wants to be expressed. Perhaps there's a message from the other side that wants to come through the portal that is the group heart. Last 2 breaths. And on the final breath together, really big breath, you're going to let out some sound and let yourself resonate with your partner. Just an ah or a sigh to really feel the love permeating the space. Big inhale. Ah. And with the little squeeze coming back in. Beautiful. So today we're going to do a little review of last week's assignment, and then we're going to hear the harvest from each of you, or whatever wants to come through, so that if there's anybody who needs extra attention or wants to kind of workshop it, we'll hold space for that. We'll support each other. But we also want to offer any questions or Q&A or anything else that came up during the week. So there may be things that are not directly vows. It could be related to the cosmology, but we'll have a little discussion. Do you want to review?
Yeah. So the homework was basically to spend about an hour around just creating a container, meditating with your partner, and meditating about the vows, and then it was to journal and spend some time journaling. And the nature of the vows is the 3 different areas: the personality, the soul, and then the void, or the other. In those 3 areas, and then to write those down and compare. It's also important that it not be like perfectionist. That it is a working, it's a working document, or a work in progress, and that's one of the most important parts with it as well. Anything else that
Great.
you?
Yeah, beautiful. No, I just wanted to make the distinction that, like, it's not necessarily that you have to meditate together for an hour. So you could do the kind of meditation and journaling separately, and then some of you may have come together to discuss it, and some of you may not have yet. But regardless of where you are in that homework and however you decide to tailor it to your partnership, let's check in on what harvest like, how'd you do, what'd you do, and then what harvest. Before we go around the circle and hear from you, is there any either questions or comments? I know we covered last week more like certain distinctions about polystyles and agreements and that kind of thing, but should we just dive in and see how everyone did on the homework, or do we have any larger discussion that we want to have? Okay, so we're good for the homework. Who wants to go first? Everybody's on mute, so.
There, I see Alex.
Okay, great.
So we had left the homework until last night, and we found ourselves in a bit of a state of like disconnect and processing, and so it actually felt really good to, like, even though we weren't like in our like loving like heart space or like ritual space, we're like, we're fucking doing this anyway, and just to like sit down, and even though there was like all that emotion there, to just being like, well, I'm just so committed to this anyway, like it doesn't matter that things aren't good, because this is, you know, for when things aren't too. So.
Thank you. Paul?
Yeah, it's and so yes, ditto on what she said, but also I think it's even just a nice practice to review vows once a month, just because so somehow it gets lost a bit in the background, and you know, we're very dedicated to each other and working as a team, and we do a lot together, and some of our work even intertwines a bit together, and so we really are in a partnership, and like any good partnership, we want to make sure like we're true to what what the agreements are and what direction we're both going. So yeah, it's good practice. Thank you. And you, as I mentioned last week, originally we're going to do a vow renewal next week, anyways. And so this is sort of a okay, getting ready, and we're going to do a full ritual and everything next week.
Great. Good. Okay, sweet. So, yeah, checking in. Who else? Lisa and Greg.
We did our homework.
Yay!
We got to really look at that ketubah.
We did our ketubah in the garage.
For sending the picture, that was great.
Your dusty.
Yeah, I mean, I think we did it, and we discussed it this morning prior to the meeting, and it was interesting to see where there were some similarities and also created some opportunity to discuss some of our differences in the way that we approach the relationship. So it was definitely a meaningful exercise, at least for me. If you want to address how it was.
Yeah, no, it was very meaningful. And I mean, it's lovely to hear the couples that are more connected with their vows and a ritual, a renewal. We had a laugh that we don't even remember if we had written vows for our wedding 24 years ago, you know, but it's funny because we actually have a joke. We had a Jewish ceremony, and there was something about Moses and Abraham and something like that and so we still today often joke about, well, you know, Moses and Abraham said, you know, blah, blah, blah. And so it's kind of funny to, like, that's the thing that stuck with us, and we've been actually just joking about it for all these years.
We've made a mockery of our vows.
Yes.
For the last 24 years.
So to actually drop in to create something called Vows is actually pretty important, I think, for us, especially we're taking shit down to the studs as intention for this course, but now we're really seeing it's happening. So to have something that marks a new beginning, I think is really important.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see the difference between the creation of intentional commitments to each other versus the boilerplate wedding vows that we had, you know, a couple of decades ago, and you know, and to feel the intentionality of actually creating something was nice.
Yeah, and just to stay connected and alive, can you give us a weather report, Greg, about how it feels since you last week you talked about transitioning with your other beloved, and just a weather report of how that's going.
I have been, I mean, there's been some, ups and downs, as I've kind of ridden the wave of emotions that follow that. But the thing that has been most interesting to me is the amount of freed up energy that I have as a result of making that decision. And so, I feel lighter, more focused, more connected. So, overall, I think it's been a very positive change. So yeah, better, I guess.
Wow, thank you. I mean, that's actually a really profound measure after 3 years it was being together. Yeah, just in the first, week or so to already feel that like there's like a more alignment with your energy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a step function increase in the amount of lightness that I feel.
I can really relate. Thank you. All right, sweet. So let's hear from others. Who's next? Okay, Kirsten and Jonathan.
First, before I forget, you mentioned that there's a thing on agreements and beyond monogamy. I was interested in reading that. Where do I get that?
Great. So it's not a read, it's a listen. It's an audio week. And I will post the link. I'll have Kali Das post the link on our Facebook group. And I just want to slip in here the context, which is that when we do vows at the level of personality and then soul and then mystery or source, personality manages the agreements, because a lot of times agreements, we all have highly functioning relationship agreements or we wouldn't all be together. But what we don't always recognize is that those are strategies to meet the needs of personality. And so approaching those as such with kind of the awareness of like, oh, what are the personality's needs is actually really valuable because it's the personality. Here's a quote from Byron Katie. Personality doesn't love. Personality wants stuff, right? There's a big distinction between wanting to get something and loving. And so, yeah, it's beautiful to have awareness when your personality is making vows, like what is it vowing to, and what are the needs of the personality as it does that.
And there can also be strategies within the vows, strategies for achieving that place of soul and of void, as well. Things like, listening to the void. I will listen to the void, on a regular basis.
Right. Great. But that's not a personality vow. That's
right. It's a vow for, not for personality, but the agreements, those agreements, that's the point that I'm making, is that the agreements don't have to, they can also be pointing at things that are not personality as well on the other side.
Okay. How'd you do with the homework?
Well, I did the homework and it was good. It gave a lot of thought. And I like the idea of the 3 levels. Kirsten and I did vows, our wedding day, and I brought them here from 17 years ago. And I read those. Those were interesting to see how they were similar and different. I hope Kirsten hopefully will do the vows soon and we can go over our vows then, our vows now, and have that discussion, which we haven't had yet.
Nice.
Yeah, I need to find those old vows because I don't even know
brought
where
them.
Mine?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I even have a copy of it.
I do.
But I was able to listen to the video but not complete the homework. So I want to take some time and really do that.
What's your harvest from listening to the video? What value did you get from that?
That because I'm in such transition, it seems like it's going to be important to think about what are my vows and to him, what are they going to be in terms of the transpersonal and the void. Mm-hmm. And today, when we were just conversing about how we did the homework, we didn't do the homework, I said, okay, here's my vow to you. I'm going to take this new meditation class that I know will help kind of stabilize some of my psychic-like energy. And I'm going to do that as a gift for you because I know that he'll benefit from that. So that I kind of threw it out there in a playful way. Here's my vow to you.
That's sweet.
I appreciate it.
I knew it would mean something to him, so.
Thank you. Yeah. Good. I bet there'll be benefits for you as well. Awesome. Okay. Who's next?
There's Renee.
Okay, Renee and Todd.
Uh-huh.
We need to hear you.
Okay, can you hear us now?
Perfect.
Okay. Well, I think I had spent some time yesterday or the day before after our call, and just kind of connecting and getting some things down on paper that I felt was a pretty good first draft of it. But in conversation with Todd, we both wrote our vows originally 10 years ago, and really don't want to give those up, and want to bring those forward and have these vows, at least I was looking at it as having these vows be in addition to those. Right. And yet, ironically, we cannot find a copy of our original vows. And,
there's a lesson there.
And yet,
I mean, I know I have them. I'm a digital pack rat.
You are.
And so I know they're out there. I just can't find them.
So we've had a little bit of a struggle, feeling a little almost wobbly with like, well, okay, what were those, and how do we bring those forward if we can't remind ourselves what they were precisely? And for me, I can settle into this place of just honoring the essence of bringing them forward, and knowing the essence of what was in them hasn't changed and is stronger than it's ever been. But I know you.
I think
it's harder.
I think just based on last week being last week, and the call we had, what I was having trouble stitching together until just now, and my resistance to openness around restructuring the vows, is that a lot of our original vows and the intention in that, it was really, they were very much who we were at the time. So they're all very personality focused when I look at the context. And I was having trouble kind of getting some juice out of the 3 levels. Mm-hmm. And I had a walk this morning, and subsequent to that walk, it's sunk in that our old vows were personality vows. Really, maybe there was some that might have slipped into a little bit of soulfulness, and I think that that's very true. If I had, if I had them all written out in front of me, and there's a lot of soulfulness in there. I don't think there was a whole lot of mystery, maybe something alluding to the fact that the future is unknown. So the big thing for me is that if they were all the personality related kind of level of vows, then that's fine. Those persist, and that they persist at that level, and then we can move on to some of the bigger picture things and more forward-looking conceptual, and how we want to be, not just in the world in the personality space, but also soulfully and spiritually.
Sweet.
So that helps to drop some of the resistance I was feeling.
Okay, great, great. Yeah.
It's interesting. I got an interesting hit when you were talking, Todd, which was really out of the blue. But when you were talking about the vows, being personality vows, and I thought about it. A lot of times our vows say, "Until death do us part," and I was thinking that mystery vow actually doesn't have that.
Let's leave that one out, please.
Yeah, but even a concentration on what that is, beyond time and beyond our place here, in the physical space.
Totally.
Also, too, our souls don't die. Like our souls are immortal. So like we don't part at death at the soul level.
Right. Right. And ultimately, that's the truth. I really appreciate source as opposed to mystery or void, because that's really truly how I see it. We come from and we go to, and it never leaves, and it's always there. And we happen to inhabit this physical realm for a little bit in this body, and that's what we have physical memory of. We have soul memory as well, right? So that's the place that the real depth of spirituality in the personality goals and how these things feed each other in a bi-directional way.
Yep. Gorgeous.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you.
All right, we're going to move to James and Sharmila. Are you ready for us?
I mean, we could be ready, but I don't know what to share because we are out of the loop.
Yeah.
We haven't heard the message from last time yet.
Okay, so maybe you can share with the group a relationship win or a celebration that you're having since we haven't seen you in a month. So just tell us one good thing. I know you guys have been doing some deep relationship work. So what's a harvest from that?
Me? I don't know, there've been a few patterns that we've been in for quite a long time, some a few months, some years, and we've been working and talking about a number of them lately, and there's been this sense that we're missing each other and not really understanding what the other person's saying. And it feels like in the last week or so that's really starting to pivot, where there's been a few different places where we've been able to kind of break through and start to have a greater sense of understanding. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the bigger wins for me, is starting to feel like we can see a path forward for how to work on some things that have felt stuck for a long time.
Thank you. Sharmila, for you?
I don't know. I think I'm still actually in sort of the crunch of it as opposed to the win of it. So I don't have a lot to say in that, honestly. It feels good that we're moving forward, but I don't feel like I'm in a celebratory win. I just feel like we're kind of trudging forward.
And you're happy to be in the process.
I mean, happy is the wrong word.
You're in the process.
Yes, I am in the process.
Got it. Thank you. All right. Well, let's see if we can make it more, move you more from the being in it towards the happy this call.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm feeling also that within the vows, if you do the homework, this coming week, that the vows have something to do with that, as well, like moving you through those.
Yeah, I mean, part of me feels like I want to wait until the crunch is over to look at the vows, but I get that that's not how that works.
They might help you to get a vision out. It might clear you, take you out of the lake, to a different place. That's what I was imagining with the vows. the vows will give you a different viewpoint, to where the shit that you're in right now.
Yeah.
So,
Well, without having full context for last week, there is a way in which I could see the idea of working on vows being really useful, because like one of the things that has been happening for us is that there's certain patterns that we both had in relationship earlier on, and then there are places where each of us have done quite a lot of work and shifted, but the other one hasn't been able to feel the shift, and so we're still acting out of an old way of being that isn't fully relevant for what's current. And I guess part of how I'm seeing this vow process and the way that people are communicating about it is the ability to kind of look at like, what were the commitments that you made to each other when you first got together, and what are the commitments you want to make now, and like, what is the upgrade process to bring that current. So I'm seeing where there could be a relevance in that for what we've been working on.
Sweet. Beautiful. Yeah. I saw the same thing with Kamala Devi and I when we did ours, James, and it was a thing about our vows being to the past, to the current, and to the future. And it really made me see them a lot differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So Greg and Marina.
You want to go first, honey?
You go ahead, Greg. You're on.
Okay. So I need to just let everyone know that I'm going to probably have to jump off in about 15 minutes or so. I'm at a surf contest I'm judging for one of my best friends, and he passed away, and this is a memorial surf contest for him. So I won't be able to stay on for all of it, but I'll watch the rest of the recording. And by the way, I watched last week's recording again, and it was like 3 times as more powerful for me. I was just like, it's very deep material, so thank you for sharing it. It was really valuable for me to review it. Update on the process is I feel like I'm incomplete with the process. We were in our little bubble of love up in the cabin with the TP and the journey, and it was amazing, and we did the first part of it, but I feel like I misinterpreted the instructions, and I thought we were supposed to kind of crank through it quickly and try to do it in a short amount of time, like, get it done in 15 or 20 minutes and let it rip. And I feel like there's just some more massaging and tweaking to do to get clarity. But I love the process. We aligned and we shared what we were both thinking on all 3 levels. And we really honored each other. I think one thing that kind of was the hardest is we've really designed our relationship with a lot of intention, and our container that we currently have, although it's evolving, is it's something we really, really want to retain and respect. And it's we're kind of trying to integrate what we did as far as the vows to, I feel that we can integrate it into our container. And we're going through transition in our kind of how open our container is. So this kind of ritual, like seeing it as an ongoing process and not just doing it as a once a year event or once every 17-year event or whatever. That's the biggest harvest for me, is we got this habit now of doing this on the full moon. And if we keep it up, I think our chances of making it through the long distance piece and all the other challenges of being in an open poly relationship, I think that habit alone is just like lifeblood. It's just, it brings us a lot of alignment, safety, and that safety gives us the room to really play full out and dive in fearlessly with our love.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Nice.
Thank you. Marina.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm a little bit distracted. I have like 3 little monkeys here in my house, and they're making lunch. Like 8-year-olds. So I think it was really wonderful. Thank you for the topic last week. I think it really helped us to connect to something greater than personality and even the transpersonal or the interpersonal. But it was very helpful to review and understand that, these vows are malleable, and we can recommit and recreate and retweak those agreements. So that's been really, really good, very empowering. We were able to, I think we took like a couple of hours just to like review everything. And then we dove into a full night, like evening plant medicine ceremony. So it was like super potent, so good. And it also felt, for me on a personal level, almost felt like a rites of passage. Where like this old skin was shed and like this new something, this new persona is born, new self. I think there was a question and like, you know, a little bit of a fear that is coming through is, I think these personality agreements are based on like, okay, this is what I need to feel safe. This is what you need to feel safe. This is what we are creating together. And if we're no longer aligning ourselves with the personal or the transpersonal, but aligning ourselves with like a greater void, that's like literally placing myself and Greg into the hands of the great mystery. And there's a little bit of fear there. Yeah. Because, you know, like anything is available, like anything can happen. It's got its own, you know, its own trajectory. So that's where, and especially like we're transitioning and, you know, reopening the relationship. So it's like, okay, well, if I'm no longer just feeding my needs and creating this like security nest for us, then what, you know? And then this greater void is like basically my own commitment with the void, with the mystery, and trusting it or trusting the self that it will be capable. But that's where I'm at. It's like, okay, I feel totally aligned and there's this fear at the same time.
Thank you. And this came up a little bit for you both last week as well. And I want to speak to it for the whole group just to clear up any misunderstanding, because it's in my cosmology to go beyond and transcend something. It can be, if we do the transcend to the void right away, it actually collapses and becomes like a spiritual bypass. It becomes I'm not actually responsibly navigating what deep, I'm missing out on the gifts of deep containered love. And I see this all the time. And this is why I gave the example of priests and monks and holy people who go and they have this spiritual experience, but then it's like, wow, there's a God right here. And how do I truly devote myself to the divine within this one? And that includes being in love with his personality and being in love with his wounding and being in love with his process, and showing up for what is. So what's important is to organize this as a hierarchy, a healthy hierarchy, not a a dominating hierarchy where God, it comes first above all. It's more like, okay, personality it's part of our development. The personality contains us and helps us function in the world, and that's important. So personality needs are important, and to hold that as sacred, that's why we vow to it. And then we include the personality vows as we transcend to the soul, and the soul has its vows. And then we include that and transcend to that, the greater force that animates, everything. And so I want to encourage us to think of this as both and. Your hierarchy can be different. You can be like coming from source down, but the important distinction is that we're not in like, oh, it's this and not that. Like, we're not in the either or. It's like, oh, to be a holistic, multidimensional being in in an enlightened partnership, then we want to include all levels, all lines. And that's why we're distilling it down to the 3. But as I said to everybody, you can make vows at lots of other levels as well. The key is what's sacred to me, what's sacred to you. How do we bring that and synergize that together? So it'd be scary if Michael said, "Oh, I just want to have vows to the void." I'd be terrified. Like, my little girl would be like, "Whoa, that's disorienting. Like, you've kind of destabilized my reality." That's not what we're saying. But I want to share from a personal place. I mean, since we really deeply, took this on, Michael, like it came through as a download for Michael. I'd love to share our harvest if you want to say how this has been for you.
Go ahead. You're on
I
you've
feel
got something.
the Michael bringing the void in, because our earlier vows were very much spirit guided and they were very clear, and I still feel aligned with that, and I'm just transcending that. But now he's actually bringing the void in. It feels like where we had soul partnership, that there has been this evolution for us where it's like, wow, our relationship now doesn't just belong to us, it belongs to the universe. And there's just this upgrade of like, in the words of Osho, I'm not bound to the relationship, like I'm bound to love, like love being this higher trinity, and that's what we're actually committing ourselves to more than, the relationship itself. And it feels to me like an elevation, like something much bigger has come through our partnership.
Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking about it like I'm also feeling like our vows are to, if you look at it like Maslow's hierarchy, we've got these, these personality things that are foundational, that have to be there to be able to get us to that, transpersonal and up to this, this void area. It doesn't mean that we have to like have all that shit taken care of before we can make vows right now. The vows that we're making are around, that we will take care of that shit. That's what we're vowing, not that we've got it all taken care of now.
That we're committed to working on it.
So we can make those vows to the higher, these higher, concepts, without fear, because there's also vows that are there, saying that we're going to take care of the other levels, as well. That's kind of the way I feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Good. So it looks like Todd has a question. Do you want to unmute?
Sorry. So Michael, when I'm hearing you say that, I think it would be, I'm wondering if it would be fair to say that when we talk about making vows as they relate to source or void, that some of that part of that vow may not be fully actualized yet, but some of these other vows are feeling fully actualized. So we're leveraging these things that are fully actualized in us to allow us to connect with this idea of making ourselves available in love, in the full radiance of full source, like all of life and death, the whole big picture, yin and yang, all of it. That's the place where we're angling towards, if not fully actualized, and making vows around how we're angling towards that in relationship and partnership. Will that be fair?
I like that. Yeah, I like the way that you said it, because there's like two places, like in your vows, whoever's vows, if they've got their personal vows together, the new vows are taking those in and saying, oh yeah, we're not scrapping those and just saying, okay, now we're making new vows to the unknown, and so we're just getting rid of all of these other vows. No, we're bringing those forward as well.
Yeah.
But there's the other side where people don't have their vows together yet. They haven't actually the personality stuff. And
that part I get. You jump straight to, oh, we're in perfect spiritual alignment with the universe. Yeah, well, okay, maybe not.
Yeah.
Because if you're not in alignment with yourself, how can you? If you're not in alignment and in tune with yourself, how can you claim to be aligned with source? I mean, come on.
Right. Well, and that's kind of what I was saying with James and Sharmila, that by doing the vows on these other levels, it's going to give them a different kind of viewpoint to make the vows for the other levels, where they don't quite have it together yet, not to single them out, but all of us, you know, all of us have personality things that, you know, that happen, and things are good and then they're bad, but our vows are saying that we're going to, you know, they're going to hold those, and that we can, you know, we can create vows in all the levels, you know, that are looking at all of those levels being healthy. And that by looking at the higher ones, it actually gives us a vantage point to be able to make better vows, and stronger vows on the other levels.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I want to
Yeah, thanks,
speak.
Todd.
I feel the impulse to speak a little bit more into distinctions between personality, soul, and source. And before diving into that, are there any other questions or comments from our review? So, you know, at the personality level, and so this is building on multiple weeks of conversation that we've already had about needs. Like, the personality is an identity that's formed for the survival of the social being. So as you know, from the time we are a baby, we know that if we don't get love, then we die. We wither and die without kind of strategizing, how can I be lovable? What do I need to do to be liked? What do I, you know, like, so it's deep within us. There's certain ways, and sometimes that means I'm going to throw a tantrum until I get what I want, or sometimes it's like I'm just going to avoid conflict so I can get what I want. And each of our personalities are like, they're complex, and they're this, the best way to look at it, it's like this knight in shining armor, or this shining gown, or like, they're basically costumes, right? And they're attention, and not just attention, but need-seeking, you know, costumes. And as we wake up, we start to identify less with the costume, which is that, oh, it's a costume. I can put it on because because it serves this dinner party, or I can change the costume and put this on to do this. And a lot of times with people that we know really well, we can get more and more naked, and we can, you know, reveal ourselves more. And actually, as we evolve more, the more we practice the vulnerability and not going through all the identity and the personality needs, because we're starting to realize that at the core, under the costume, you know, that who we are is love. So the needs are, you know, it's not just attention and being listened to, but it's all the things that compensate for all of our woundings. Like, the costumes genuinely are trying to cover the wounding a lot of times. And even though ideally we're like, oh, I'm pretty self-aware and I'm enlightened, that doesn't mean the costume doesn't still like have that. And I don't want to shame needs, personality needs. I don't want to make it say, oh, if you have needs, that means you're needy or uninvolved. One of the things that we learned in, Coach University is that needs can be met in a healthy way. Like a responsible, mature adult asks to get their needs met, and as opposed to, you know, like denying that you have needs, but then in sneaky, weird ways, you're trying to get those needs met because they'll run you even if you don't own them in a healthy, responsible way. So actually asking in the vows, you know, and I don't mean vows. Vows is usually like, this is what I do, you know, to get so that this is who my personality is committing to being in this relationship. But when we do agreements, when we get into relationship agreements, we want to be really responsible around, wow, my personality, I just ran into this with my new lover. My personality has a strategy to get the need met. I like to schedule regular times. And that is so important to my personality because it feels like it has a need to own, you know, like Saturday nights with Michael, or, or like the book 52 Fridays that I'm just wrapping up was a strategy. I had Friday nights with that person. And it met needs for my personality that I didn't even know I had. And the point of giving those examples is like we want to bring more awareness to what is it that actually brings out the best in your personality, not the deficiency. So I want to know, Michael's personality needs respect. Like, oh, okay, I want to marry his needs. I want to provide those needs so that his personality can be at the best, not deficient, not trying to get, like, demanding my respect or whatever it is. It's like, oh, that's actually something I want to give him, not for him, but because respecting my husband is actually something I want to, I want to have a husband I can respect, so I want to do that, So looking inside and saying, oh, it's not just meeting this need for that person's deficiency, but like that meeting that need actually brings out the best in me as well. So it's a type of like how to be generous at the personality level.
I can imagine, writing a vow, something like, I vow to make your needs my own, so that there are needs that we're working on, and that there's room for those needs to be gone in the future,
to evolve,
where we don't have
satiated.
Yeah.
So this needs
Here, I'll take care of it.
Okay, good. So that's a beautiful example, because needs do get satiated. There a lot. The way I like to look at needs and personality things is it's a lot like deficiencies and vitamins, often that we didn't get in our family of origin. And if we're looking at all those needs at that level, it becomes this thing like, well, what are soul needs? And that's where I think soul gets into values. There's a distinction. The soul doesn't need it, but the soul has certain essential values. And so this is on a whole different dimension. As I mentioned, if the soul's this immortal trans lifetime, whether or not you believe in past lives, like moving through different dimensions, the soul, even if it's like, oh, the soul that comes through the DNA of humanity and has memories of past woundings of the collective, the soul's here on earth right now through each of us to evolve so that, humanity can evolve through us. So a lot of the soul's needs are evolutionary. It's like, how do I grow? How do I contribute? How do I innovate? And so soul needs can be more the value for creativity, the value for like cooperation or harmony, or because our souls came here with certain gifts, soul gifts to offer to humanity, and we want to tap into our essence and say, oh, this is what my soul's here. And it's very clear, Michael and I are here for love. Like, that's clear. Anybody can look at our partnership in our life and be like, that's a soul calling. But what are the qualities or the frequencies, the unique vibrations of love? Because the way our love expresses itself is with truth and with freedom. This is really core to how we're loving. And this comes from our soul, not just our personality. So for you to identify, like, ooh, what are the qualities that my soul, is here to give to humanity through the evolution. And this is where we're all here for an evolutionary relating. We want to do something bigger than the relationship. And so looking at what you truly value, ask yourself, what do I live for? Or what am I willing to die for? And that will point you in the direction of those soul values. And then at the, at the other whole level, the other dimension, now we're getting into more of the absolute. Now, the quality of void doesn't have an opposite. So where at the soul level, say it's creativity, the opposite may be, entropy or destruction, or, there's a polarity to those values. But absolute is like, it's the totality. It's not relative. So in the absolute, we're we're now in the God qualities, and you want to look at you know, love, for example, doesn't have, like, unconditional love doesn't have an opposite. Even though people say fear is the opposite of love, it's like, sure, at the personality level, when we're in fear, we're not in love. But the truth is that love is bigger than fear, and love can love the fear. You know, it's like this enlightened, all-encompassing, like, quality of bliss, of, you know, it's the absolute, which also includes, you know, the darkness, and you know, and the things that we resist, and so when you do this, you know, one of the beautiful things, and I'll share Michael's commitment at the level of the void to listen to it. It's like, oh, my vow is to take time to listen to it. It's actually so much like a lizard or like a snake eating its own tail, because one of the beautiful things that happens all the way down at the personality level is that my personality, you know, has a need for for him to listen more. And it's like he's now making a vow at the highest frequency to be listening more. And all of a sudden my personality is getting nurtured by that. So there's a lot of, you know, magic when we start when we're really sourcing ourselves at the source level. Some of the personality dynamics will shift as well. So it really is, we are multidimensional and holistic, and it will, you know, doing this work at these levels will alchemize us. Beautiful. So
Yeah, then questions out there? No, that was a lot of
sure was a lot of soapbox.
a lot of talk.
So Jonathan says that you need to go. So do you want to say bye, Jonathan?
I think he's gone already.
Oh, bye. We
there he
love
is.
you.
I'm here. Yeah, no, great. We'll listen to the rest on the video, but we'll work on our vows, and we'll see you next month.
Be careful. Be careful out in that dystopian city that you're lurking around in.
Have a great anniversary. Thanks for sharing it with us.
You're welcome.
Bye, you guys. Beautiful. Okay, Lisa and Greg.
I don't have a question, but just something that that you said really dropped in for me in a new way, which is, you know, one of the things that Greg has really gotten clear on is needing, is it okay? Is needing to feel important, or trying to like figure out, how do I feel important, you know, and essentially the wound is I don't feel important.
Yeah.
Which was just like manna from heaven, kind of like, oh, you know, so juicy and vulnerable and profound and like huge access point. And so I love what you shared about, like, you want to feel listened to, and Michael, you know, wants to listen to the void. And so then you get nurtured, and it's like, for me to, like, I want to be somebody who makes people feel important. You know, I want, which I do, which I do in my work every fucking day. Right. So I want to be that person. And so, like, I want to be that for him, but not just for him. Right? Not just to fill that for him, but just because that's who I want to be. I want to be somebody who makes people feel important.
Gorgeous.
Really.
Yeah. Love it. I just said that about respect. It's the same thing. I want to respect everyone. And I actually recognize it's a deficiency in my personality, because I'm so arrogant sometimes. I don't give people the respect they deserve. And so my husband is like my greatest teacher. Like, this is the best place to practice that quality that my personality needs to be schooled in. So I get to practice it in my marriage.
There's another thing that came up. Thank you, Lisa, for speaking into this. But it's you know, often in my relationships, I've felt like, you know, I can't get to that higher place because I'm so bogged down in all the shit in the personality place. And I'm realizing that by being attuned to the needs of the other, that we can actually access the higher places through our partnership. So almost like I'm feeling like, okay, I need to be out of relationship so that I can be this, focused antenna, and I can hear the void. I can see a different place where we're actually accessing the void together. And that we can actually do a deeper service to myself and to the universe by using us to access the void. And I know it's a little bit maybe esoteric, but it takes care of that problem of being the guru sitting on the mountain for 40 years because he can't even feed himself, right? And he doesn't have the physical relationships and the things that we're really valuing. By bringing that in and going to the void together, it allows us to integrate all of that other stuff, and we can get there. And it's a different void that we're kind of hearing from. It's a void that includes love, on a much, much higher level. And we can, for myself, I can recognize it because I'm going in there. It's not just me just listening to the void by myself. I'm listening to the void with Kamala Devi, and that means that it's I'm listening for that that pulse or whatever that is, that includes us, that is love. It's easier to find that. It's easier to hear it because I know what love is within our relationship. So when I hear it in the void, it's it's recognizable for me.
Yeah. So I have a pretty tangible example of this because I know I love what you just shared, but I also know it's kind of hard to access in the abstract. So as a sex and relationship coach who is working with couples who a lot of times it's like, okay, come to me because they want better sex, and we'll work and coaching on their sex, it's about, okay, what are some of the best sexual experiences you've had? Well, all of us have had that experience of being totally merged with your beloved where everything dissolves and there's only one, we've had these transcendental glimpses of there's only one of us here. And it's so profound when it comes through. And there's also the increased ecstasy of we both had it. We both had that same moment where everything disappeared and we were one and we were God. Most of the time when I'm coaching people, somebody has this transcendental mystical experience and the other person is yeah, it was meh, I was kind of bored or whatever. So the irony is one person did pierce the veil, go to the place where they were totally connected at the level of the oversoul to the person, but the other person's personality didn't get there. They met there. It's not that denies their experience. It's that they didn't meet there and include the personality and the soul to get to the oversoul. So what Michael's speaking to is yeah, I can get there, kind of at the beginning of this entire deep dive journey where we said to everyone, look, divorce your inner critic, get yourself in a beautiful state. This is always about you being in a certain vibration. It's not about your partner and their stuff. It's about you coming back to love all the time. That is a beautiful partial truth. And then what we're saying is on the inside of the inside with your vows, we want to get you to a place of your souls are together and you're in the void together. And what's amazing is when your souls know it and your personalities know it too. Okay.
Did someone have a question? Was that a question or no? Yeah, that's just an aho.
Good. So the next step I'm going to suggest, it's we kind of were heavy-handed, just be quick, just do it. We want you all to start this because we knew that it was iterative and, getting the ball rolling so that you can deepen the conversation is important. Between now and when we talk next month, I invite you to go back in for another layer. I invite you to go take it to the next level, which might mean, Michael and I haven't like, it's like you have it written in your journal, but have you written it, typed it up, or made it beautiful, or put it someplace to remind you, like maybe put it on the altar, like whatever the next level. So do the ritual part and put it in a form. Okay. Now I want to speak also to the how frequently, and by the way, the form can be posting on Facebook. I got a lot of juice out of just telling the world that we upgraded, like it like a marriage, it adds another kind of energy when you tell people beyond just our deep dive group. But the question of how often to revisit and revise, and I know some of you talked about every moon, and that this is an ongoing conversation. In the beginning, like with Marina and Greg, like I think that in the beginning, there is a frequency that is a healthy, like we're still figuring it out, and or Tall and Alex who are newlyweds. But my observation is that when we overthink this or overfocus or overwork on it, it's a little bit like a dog chasing its tail. Like the partnership then becomes all about the partnership. And what we really want to move everyone towards is an evolutionary relationship where it's like, this is a strong container, like deep vows, they're alive in us. But then from that, we can put our attention on the world, on others. It's not so much like myopically just looking at us. It's like we want to be able to contribute to the tribe because these vows are so deeply in place. That gives us the energy and frees us up to give back. And so my ideal with this, especially, we're going to be working on the relationship every month until May. And I would invite us, because this is the equinox starting tomorrow officially, is to say, okay, let's this week or whatever, finish the vows and then not revisit the vows until 3 months. Each month we will be doing more work with the deep dive, but the vows, once they're created, a season is a nice time to say, let's live into it for a season. I say the same thing about agreements. It's like, let's see how it goes. And then seasonally on the solstice, we'll check back in and see if we want to upgrade anything, if we want to change our maybe relationship at the personality level. And by the way, it's the personality that changes the most. When we originally did our 7-year ceremony, it was because at the time, I think it was Deepak Chopra was, as an endocrinologist, was talking about how all the cells are completely different, and the pheromones, like the way your partner smells, is 7 years later is a totally different pheromone, because we recreate ourselves, body and personality. Hopefully, we're all growing. So the personality vows are the ones that are most likely to evolve over each review. And also, like a relationship that overanalyzes itself and works on itself can also be kind of like drama or chasing. It's like, really, we want to get to a place where we're no longer processing or working on these deep things, and we want to get to a place of fun and play and lightness and back into our juice. And these vows are kind of at some level, they're the consciousness. They're like, hey, we're consciously agreeing on this, and yes, it's multidimensional, but let's live into it so we're not working from mind anymore.
And there's also, just like in sex magic, we always say, may this or something better come, in the highest good of all. So we're putting kind of a general, even catch-all, and the vows can be, can have that kind of flavor to them as well, where they're, they're not super specific, but they're catching the essence of it, so that you don't have to like be tweaking them all the time. You just know that they're there and that they're going to take you in the right direction.
Yeah, it's that distinction between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. Mm-hmm. We want to be in the spirit of the vows and not so worried about the grammar or the syntax or the verbiage. Beautiful. So I do expect to get more into a more embodied practice next month. But I also wanted to, to voice the beauty of, hey, we are working this process, and sometimes it's supportive and nice to have others to either talk about it or work on it with. And I wanted to encourage, this group to show up and really support each other if needed. I know, there've been, breakups or escalations in secondary relationships. We don't always have time to talk about all that. So I know everybody's so busy, but next month, I also want to talk about how to do maybe some accountability or just checking in or some heart sharing that's beyond the group call. If you guys are open to that, is having check-ins with each other. Good. Okay, so we're going to go around the circle for closure.
The homework. Kamala, please. Kamala, Debbie, please. Can you repeat the homework?
So homework is basically continue the vow creating process all the way through to getting it in a written form that you can put it to rest until the solstice. And that means, get on the same page, create some kind of ritual of your own making, and then and then whatever you want to do to display the vows, and it's completely personal, so we're asking you to do what's authentic with it, but I do suggest it's written in a beautiful way, because right now it might be chicken scratch in a journal.
And the homework for last week is also detailed on the stream. So if you need that part, you've seen that, right, Lisa? Yeah.
All right, so we're going around the circle, and it's like, here's what I want to do. Is I want you to pick one vow that at any of those levels, and just share it with the group. So it can also be a work in progress, especially for James or Sharmila, to say oh, I know I'm working on this vow. And so we're going to close by everybody choosing one vow that they're speaking into the circle. And it's hey, this is one of the vows I'm working on. So take a moment, and this will hopefully muse and inspire each other. And and you can actually frame it I'm working on this vow, so we know it doesn't mean that you're be held to it. But let's start with you, Michael.
Me?
Somebody's got to break the ice.
Yeah, I'm still working on this one about listening to the void, and I'm gonna tweak it into more of a shared listening, and all of them I want to do in a way that's more of a vow, that's more inclusive, but especially the one in working with the void, that I'll use our relationship to help me hear into the void, something like that.
Beautiful. And I will choose to share the vow of vowing to feel the inseparability of our souls. So I bring that inseparable, that, into all my relations.
Nice.
I'm just going to go around the circle and call on you.
Unless somebody raises their hand right now. Okay.
So we're going to do Tal and Alex, and then Lisa and Greg.
Yeah, so the void goal, I think, is really important. So to commit to a daily meditation practice, so that I am well connected, well sourced, and when I do, meet my beloved here, it's coming from a full cup.
Beautiful.
To seek honor and embrace the mystery of life and our journey together.
Good. Say it one more time. Just sound quality got weird.
To seek, embrace, and honor the mystery of our journey together.
Beautiful. Thank you. Lisa and Greg.
Okay. From on the soul level, embracing our full expression individually and as partners.
Nice.
I told you earlier that I had a lot of energy free up after ending that relationship, and I was not only able to finish the homework, but I actually typed it up.
Yay!
Wow.
Beautiful.
I'll share the soul vow, and that was, I commit to act in the direction of living in alignment with my core values of authenticity, creativity, service, and peace, so I may fully express myself and help others wanting to do the same.
It's gorgeous. Beautiful. It touches me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Good. So let's do Marina and Greg, and then Renee and Todd.
Marina, Greg's probably.
Oh yeah, Greg
at the
left.
beach.
So Marina, if you are with us.
She's
Okay, she's on hold too. So Todd and Renee.
I'll go. I'm just gonna say the vow. The vow is to show up for myself and in relationship with Renee and the world, really, in a way that exemplifies, the presence and power of unconditional love. I mean, at the end of the day, we bring that and can heal a lot of our problems. We stay in personality and we stay in our brokenness, and we allow each other to stay there, and we don't support each other's growth and development. That's not helpful. So, when we can love each other unconditionally and accept each other just the way we are, I think that's where the juice is, not only for me relating to myself or my wife or the world. We hold true.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
One of my soul vows that I am sitting with is I vow to bring my full life force energy to you for your healing and my own, and in support of our soul's purpose together.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you.
I think James and Sharmila are left.
Well, I haven't actually put a lot of thought into this prior to now, but one of the ones that sort of sparked for me was the vow to have our relationship and how I show up to it be guided from a intuitive space. I think I've had a tendency of having a lot of mental constructs of how things are supposed to be and then trying to make those happen, and they haven't always felt particularly authentic. And there have been a number of times where it was clear that what I needed or we needed or she needed was arising from a sort of intuitive space, but I would potentially move a different direction. And so the vow is to sort of continue to tune in and allow us to be guided more from a place of what's emergent, what's intuitive versus trying.
Yay! That's exciting.
Yeah, I don't know. I the piece that I've sort of been working on is getting my personality out of the way so he can have his full expression and not trying to control things or arrange things or make things go a certain way. I guess it's sort of similar to what he's saying, but it's more along the lines of like really making space for his expression.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Mhm. Marina's-
Yeah, Marina, we are sharing just one vow. So what have you got for us?
Yeah, I've got mine is on the personal level. So I'm committing to getting my own cup full. And that is like taking care of my body, finances, and emotions. So getting my ultimate state to 100% and then showing up fully.
I love it.
Mhm.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Just as a kind of a final note, the antennas that we are for looking into the void and even the transpersonal and the soul part is so much stronger when we're together. It's kind of like like a tuner that's, 100 amp tuner. You take you're each 100 amp tuner, but you put the two of you together, and now you've got 1,000 amp tuner. So it's got a frequency, a strength that allows us to hear, because what we're hearing for is love. And by having the two of us together, we're creating that field, if we can hear it and feel it. But it's so much stronger, it's exponentially stronger by having us together instead of being that solo person up on the mountaintop.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And so, and I love even coming off of what Marina just said, like each of us, if we're 100 amp tuner, like you want to be at 100%, as you come, like you might be like a 50 amp, like fill your own cup first, then come and amplify each other. And then we can access the upper realms even more from our fullness, because we've taken care of our personal needs. So I love that our relationships are supporting each other, taking care of all levels. So we're going to wrap up here, and I'm going to just invite everyone to stay in touch until we meet next month. I want to invite, one thing I should just do as a homework is say, like, once your vows are complete, take a picture of it or post it on Facebook. Let's inspire each other. Let's share those with each other. And the reason isn't so much to, get ideas, but also to hold each other accountable and to stay connected. There isn't a whole lot of connection between our calls, and this month, let's do it that way, which is take the extra effort of sharing your vows with the group. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
which
great.
Greg already did. Good job, Greg.
Yeah. Well, he put them in writing at least. Now he's going
to showed him. I saw him.
Well, that's fair, because he's not on Facebook, so that'll count for you, Greg.
I'll send you a picture after the call.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
Good. All right. Blessings, everybody. Happy Sunday.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Happy Sunday, everyone.